Hey, yeah, I have to record this part of the podcast far after I already finished because some really important news just dropped, and I figured you guys probably want me to talk about it now and not wait until next week to talk about it. It's already circulating, everybody's talking about it on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all that shit. But CM Punk is back in the news once again. And I feel like we hear about this at least 2 or 3 times a year ever since 2014 when he first left WWE. That CM Punk might be back, CM Punk this, CM Punk that. It's CM Punk has been a topic of conversation ever since he left. But now he's the topic of conversation because, as reported by Sean Ross Sapp, and reported by so many other news outlets since then. PW Insider, I think Dave Meltzer's now talking about it. CM Punk is primed to return to the ring. And I'll read off to you guys what I'm seeing from Sean Ross Sapp's Fightful Select Patreon page, which I'm subscribed to. I won't read the whole thing because obviously that's wrong of me, but I'll paraphrase. Basically, it reads that CM Punk has been in talks with a pro wrestling company, not named, basically to return to pro wrestling as an in-ring performer, with sources indicating that AEW is the most likely landing point. There is currently no confirmation of a contract officially being signed, but it seems that right now CM Punk is in talks with somebody at AEW about returning. I mean, that's pretty big. That's that big. That's huge. Because in the 7 years we've been talking about CM Punk, I don't think we've really talked about CM Punk actually being in conversation with someone about returning. And the last time that was around All Out, I believe 2018, when CM Punk was talking with the Bucks, and I think the Bucks didn't like the way. CM Punk didn't like the way the Bucks approached him, and then had delayed things, and then he didn't want to come in. You guys remember that story? It was either All Out or like 2019 when that happened. And that was the last time I think we even heard about CM Punk returning. Of course, I believe it was the first All Out. Yeah, the first All Out, 2019, when they were in Chicago, that CM Punk actually did a Starcast in Chicago. And there was like a video of CM Punk in the wrestling ring. He's like, this is my first time in a wrestling ring and since 2014. And fans got hyped up about that, and that went nowhere. So this is big. CM Punk possibly is on his way back. Now listen. If you were to ask me, Tyler, who is your second favorite wrestler of all time? I would tell you it's CM Punk, right behind Chris Jericho. I grew up on CM Punk. I watched his entire WWE career, and he will always be my favorite. However, I am far beyond this point where wrestling needs CM Punk. Pro wrestling does not need CM Punk. Pro wrestling has evolved. Pro wrestling has also fallen in popularity. It's fallen in ratings since CM Punk left. And it's not due to CM Punk leaving, but it has fallen since 2014. But pro wrestling is also, you can say, has been stronger than it's ever been. In terms of pro wrestling companies working with each other, you now have a strong second North American promotion in All Elite Wrestling. You have New Japan Pro Wrestling as a big prominent figure in North America, despite it being a Japanese wrestling company. You have all these other wrestling companies from all over the world that are now being talked about in North America, in UK, in all these other places that in years prior, these companies would never even see the light of day in popular wrestling places. But now they're being talked about. And I feel like right now, if this news never came out, if CM Punk was never in talks with AEW or whatever company it may be, nothing would change. Trust me. I think that the day would go on, the world wouldn't stop, nothing would change. But now that CM Punk is back in the news, everyone's losing their minds. And it's exciting. You know what? It's exciting. I'm not going to sit here and try to, badger anybody for getting excited because, hell, like I said, second favorite of all time. You don't think I would pop very huge? I mean, I would probably lose all bodily fluids if Cult of Personality hit on any wrestling show, whether it be AEW or WWE or New Japan. It doesn't matter where it is. If CM Punk came back, I would lose my shit. Absolutely 100%. But I think people need to get out of this mindset that CM Punk is needed. He's not. He really isn't. But here's the thing. I will admit, if CM Punk were to come, let's just say CM Punk is coming back, right? Theoretically, Tony Khan said we're going to be having a new big signing, and now this news comes out. So everyone's going to be, pointing the direction at Tony Khan, like, wait, is this what you're talking about? Let's just say that is CM Punk, and CM Punk comes back at All Out, okay? If CM Punk comes back at All Out, that would be a big boost for AEW. Not just for wrestling, but I think for even outside of wrestling, because you guys have to remember something here. CM Punk is like a cult figure that transcends pro wrestling. A lot of non-wrestling fans know who CM Punk is from his UFC fights. And they may know him as a loser, but they know who CM Punk is. CM Punk has been featured in a movie before. He's been talked about in pop culture. He's been talked about in music videos. He's been talked about in media outside of wrestling. CM Punk is, I don't want to say he's bigger than wrestling, but he transcends the world of pro wrestling. Like, when you talk about a Kenny Omega, he may be known to some gamers out there, but there's not many other people in the world who know who Kenny Omega is. There's an average everyday Joe out there who probably has heard the name CM Punk before. Not everybody has heard the name Andrade El Idolo before, or Matt and Nick Jackson before. And that's not a knock on those guys. I'm just being real. He is a popular name. So if CM Punk were to return, there would be a boost. They could pop their highest rating of all time if CM Punk were to return to All Out and they advertised that CM Punk was going to speak on that first Dynamite post All Out. That could be a number that's even on par with Monday Night Raw numbers currently. The lowest number Monday Night Raw has ever done is a 1.4. You don't think AEW can do that if they announce CM Punk to be on the show? I think they could. I think they could even transcend that number. I'm not naive enough to say they're going to push 2 million. I don't know about that much, but they definitely could go above 1.5 if CM Punk were on the show. Now, couple that with Daniel Bryan being in talks with AEW. Couple that with Bryan Danielson possibly signing with AEW. If both of those guys sign with AEW, they're a real threat to WWE. That's a real threat to WWE if they lose Bryan Danielson and CM Punk to AEW. But that's fantasy booking there. CM Punk, I'm not going to believe it until I see it. We've been hearing about this return. We've been hearing about the possibility for 7 years. I am not buying into it until I hear Cult of Personality on my television screen. And that is the end of it. Let's get into the podcast. We have a very WWE-centered episode of the Chill Spill podcast for you this week, as we're going to be talking about WWE Smackdown last week, Money in the Bank this weekend, well, last weekend I should say, and then Monday Night Raw, which just passed us by. We're also going to be talking about Jay White appearing on Impact Television, AEW Fyter Fest coming up this week, New Japan Pro Wrestling and their upcoming Tokyo Dome show, and so much more here on the 57th edition of the Chill Spill podcast. The S is silent, by the way. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Tyler Mask, aka Suplex. That's SOOPLEX on TikTok and SOOPLEXX on Twitch.tv, aka Tyler Kuhn Williams, aka the one who lived. And guys, this is the 57th edition of the Chill Spill podcast, and that is pill spelled with an S. but it is silent, much like I should be right now, but I'm sitting here recording this podcast. So I'm sure many of you can tell by my voice right now, I am sick. I'm not feeling very good at all. I have a headache. I'm feeling kind of fatigued, and on top of that, I have a sore throat, which is why my voice is so low. Because if I talk in my normal tone, then it's going to really strain my vocal cords, and I'm not trying to do that. So we're here. And I originally was debating on if I wanted to skip this episode of the podcast, but I've been having this streak going on since last October, and I want to maintain that streak. I'm going for Goldberg's undefeated streak, and I can't do that if I end it this week because I'm sick. I would have to be out of states or like somewhere in a hospital somewhere or dead to miss another episode. We're going for over 100 consecutive episodes. We got to hit the Goldberg streak, and then the podcast will be over forever. I don't know. But anyway, guys, this is episode 57. Please bear with me. I am not feeling very well. I'm going to have to take sips of water in throughout of my speaking. I will try to keep this episode short because I should not be speaking for a very long time. But I did want to go over a lot of things that happened last week. This is a very WWE-centered episode of the Chillspot Podcast. We will be going over SmackDown, Money in the Bank, and Monday Night Raw, all of which I caught. You guys know I do not watch WWE. I don't watch SmackDown anymore. I don't watch Raw anymore. I barely watch pay-per-views. I only watch the major ones, and Money in the Bank is a major one, so I was going to watch this basically no matter what. Let me not say no matter what, because there would have been a chance I may have not seen it if I wasn't off that day, not gonna lie. But I actually caught all three shows for this episode specifically, so please do me a favor, smash the hell out of the like button, because I'm doing this sick, and I watched Raw and SmackDown. I bared all those shows for this episode. So let's get this podcast to 30 likes. 30 likes, I think we could do it. But before we get into WWE, I wanted to talk about AEW for just a hot second. I wanted to do a quick little overview of Fyter Fest. Once again, I'm going to keep it short. I'm not really going to go into any moves. I'm just going to roll with the results, honestly. The show started off with Jon Moxley versus Carl Anderson, and Jon Moxley retained the IWGP United States Championship. That was really cool to see Carl Anderson back in singles action. I've seen his matches in New Japan like 10 years ago, back when he was at his peak performance. So seeing him in here, he did pretty well. I didn't expect, a performance like him versus Okada or him versus AJ Styles, but I thought him versus Moxley was pretty fun. After that, we have Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage for the FTW Championship, in which Ricky Starks ended up coming out the winner of that match, and he is the new FTW champion. Now, bear in mind, this is because of an interference from Powerhouse Hobbs and Hook, basically, I could say, turning on Brian Cage. We don't really know what this is leading to. I think we could kind of muster up what this is leading to. I expected Brian Cage to leave Team Taz, but it looks like they're almost going to kick him out of Team Taz. So, interesting direction we're heading in with this feud, it seems, between Brian Cage and Team Taz. On that show, we had Christian Cage defeating Matt Hardy in a match I never cared about. We had Miro introducing a new concept for the TNT Championship. It has white straps, a gold plating, and like a purple overlap on the design. I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw it, I thought it was the Joker belt. I thought of the Joker when I first saw the belt. It's gonna take me some time to get used to that design. I've been seeing the black straps for over like a year now. Now you force me to look at white straps with purple plating. Like, not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of it. What I can say is that I do find it interesting that it looks like now AEW is going with this almost kind of like tradition with the TNT Championship, where every holder is having a different design. I mean, Cody's original design was the red strap. Darby's design was the black strap and the sort of black plating, and now you have Miro with the white straps and the purple plating. So interested to see who is next in line, and if they're going to be keeping Miro's design or if they're going to change that up as well. I'm really, really intrigued by the concept of having different concepts for every holder. It can go a lot of different ways, though, because it's like there's so many colors of the rainbow that make sense on a championship. Like, I don't know. I don't know how good purple or blue or green or yellow straps will look on a belt, but hey, may have to venture out into that. Who knows? Britt Baker called Vicky Guerrero irrelevant without her last name. I won't say if it's true or false. Jon Moxley accepts Lance Archer's challenge for the IWGP US Championship this coming week on Fyter Fest Week 2. Jon Moxley, once again, versus Lance Archer. I'll be talking about that in the Week 2 predictions. Sammy Guevara defeated Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta is a Philly native, so as you know, I'm all for the boy. Now, I've seen Wheeler Yuta going back to last year's Ring of Honor Pure Tournament. He debuted, I believe, in Ring of Honor in that opening round match against Jonathan Gresham, and the match impressed me. And ever since then, I kind of been silently following Wheeler Yuta. So to see him on Dynamite, I mean, the guy's been wrestling matches on Dark for the last couple weeks, but now he's just on Dynamite. I'm like, okay, they're giving him some stuff to work with. That's really good. He did not win this match, which I did not expect him to. But I'll be bringing up Wheeler Yuta in just a minute when I get to Week 2 predictions. Yuka Sakazaki got the W over Penelope Ford, and then the main event of that... excuse me. This is where I was talking about. I need to take some breaks in here. Come hella high water, we're finishing this podcast, though. And Darby Allin, taking a page out of Bret Hart's book, he had the metal plating on at the very beginning of the match and did the coffin drop onto Ethan Page, which I really loved. And honestly, if they would have ended the match right there, I would have laughed my ass off because it would have been so realistic, but it kept going. It was good, though. I did enjoy the match. He did end up beating Ethan Page, and then at the very end of the show, he did a coffin drop through the coffin that had Ethan Page in it, which was a cool but dangerous sight to see. But it's Darby Allin. What do you expect? Now that we got that all out the way, let's now talk about Week 2 of AEW Fyter Fest, which is tonight. As I'm recording this is Wednesday, and it should be going up the same exact day. On this show, we have Orange Cassidy versus The Blade. Personally, I'm going to say that Orange Cassidy wins. I know they have this little feud between the two teams, two sides going on right now. I personally don't care about this feud, but I think Orange Cassidy gets the W here. Sooner or later, we'll get Chris Statlander versus the Bunny, which I will definitely not care about because I definitely don't like seeing the Bunny wrestle. We have Frank Kazarian versus Dot Gallows. Frank Kazarian, for the last 2 months, has been just interfering in elite matches constantly, and I'm glad we're getting some singles matches with him because it was getting borderline annoying. Every time there was a Young Bucks or Kenny Omega match, you would just see him in the background just beating up somebody. It's like, bruh, are you gonna have a match soon? So, cool. I personally don't care about this match either, but I'm gonna say that Frank Kazarian wins. A match that was just announced for this show is Wheeler Yuta again. Wheeler Yuta versus Darby Allin. That's going to be really good. I'm actually really excited for that match. Darby Allin's going to win again. This is going to be the second week in a row that Wheeler Yuta is on AEW Dynamite. I mean, at this point, they got this guy on Dynamite like 2 weeks straight. I'm waiting for that Wheeler Yuta's All Elite tweet. I'm waiting. Now, I know y'all all saying, but Tyler, isn't Penelope Ford a Philly native? She is. Wheeler Yuta is better, though. Hey, listen. If they don't sign Wheeler Yuta, that's fine. That's cool. Just don't let Vince get his hands on him. That's all I know. The IWGP United States Championship is on the line. Jon Moxley defends against Lance Archer in a Texas death match. Jon Moxley's retaining. I thought there was a chance he could lose to Carl Anderson last week, and he did not. I don't think he's losing to Lance Archer this week. I think if Jon Moxley loses that championship, it's going to be in Japan, which, for all we know, with all that's going on with COVID and all the resurgences going on all over the world, that could be another 3 years. I don't fucking know. And then we have the 5 Labors of Jericho. Chapter 1 starts this week. Chris Jericho goes one-on-one with Shawn Spears. Not gonna lie, this is a semi-weak card. That should be good. Now, the stipulation is that Shawn Spears can use a chair and Chris Jericho cannot. Now, mind you, the 5 Labors of Jericho is that Chris Jericho needs to win all 5 of his matches to finally get a singles match with MJF, which we prefer to be at All Out. Chris Jericho will find a way to win this match, I'm sure. And then what I assume will be the main event of that show, Dr. Britt Baker is defending her AEW Women's World Championship against Nyla Rose. I think Britt Baker's retaining, and once this is over, I don't want to see Nyla Rose contend for that championship for like an entire year. We've seen Nyla Rose contend for this championship, I feel like, at least 5. This might be her 5th time. Like, please, some new contenders would be nice. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. But that's AEW. Let's now talk a little bit about Impact Wrestling. Slammiversary just passed us by, and I did not get a chance to actually watch Slammiversary just yet. I might have to check out a few matches from that show, especially the Ultimate X match, because that was one of my favorite matches TNA used to do back in the day. But I can get straight to the main event here. Kenny Omega versus Sami Callahan. It did end with Kenny Omega retaining the Impact World Championship. I can't say I'm shocked by it, but I thought if there was anybody on the Impact roster currently who could beat Kenny Omega, it would have been Sami Callahan. I don't really know who else on the roster was going to do it because Moose already lost. Rich Swann already lost. It's like, what other person is prime in that main event spot right now? Aside from the 3 guys I just listed to you, I don't know who else is. But there is somebody, but I'll talk about them maybe at a later date. I have seen some Impact sport. I'll get into that in a bit, and I'll give you guys a warning so that way if you guys don't want to hear it, you don't have to. But, you know, with Impact Wrestling having fans back, Impact spoilers are back as well. And I've seen them, sadly. I kind of know what happens, but I'm excited for what's coming. But I'll talk about that in a second. So after Kenny Omega defeated Sami Callahan at Impact Slammiversary, the lights go out. Now Omega, Good Brothers, and Dot Gallows are in the ring. The lights go out, and the Bullet Club theme song hits. And it cut back to black, and then the violin starts going crazy. And everybody knows when that violin goes off, I usually can do the vocals and everything, but I can't do it this week. When the violin goes off, there's only one person that is, and that is Jay White. And Jay White comes from the back with the Never Openweight Championship on his shoulders, and the fans, the 20 fans in attendance go crazy. Let me stop. That laugh hurt. Let me stop. The fans in the arena go crazy. Jay White gets into the ring, and you know, Dot Gallows and the Good Brothers, they're putting up their 2 sweets. Kenny Omega, which I love this so much. Kenny Omega is in the ring with Jay White standing across from him, and he looks bewildered. Like, as Don Callis and the Good Brothers put up the 2 sweet, you can see Kenny Omega is just not, he's like confused, and he just doesn't know what to do. Like, he doesn't want Jay White to be there, because if you guys can recall, Jay White and Kenny Omega had a match 3 years ago for the IWGP United States Championship, and Jay White beat Kenny Omega. And to my knowledge, I believe that's the only match Kenny Omega and Jay White have ever had with each other. So you could say that Kenny Omega, if there's a kryptonite out there, it may be Jay White, because Kenny never got the win back over Jay. But back to what I was saying, Jay White, he was kind of debating. He didn't know what to do, but before he can make a decision, the camera cuts, and it's a cliffhanger. And I'm like, damn. Of course Impact had a camera cut at the end. Of course they did. But apparently it's a cliffhanger. They did it on purpose. I saw fan cam afterwards. I'm sure a lot of you saw the fan cam footage as well. It was Finn Juice that came out after the fact to break things up. They attacked the Bullet Club and Jay White. I got to say Bullet Club Elite because Jay White isn't with Kenny Omega as far as I know. After that point, Jay White got back into the ring. He had a Blade Runner onto David Finlay, who will be facing off against Jay White in New Japan Strong in August. So things are being set up here. Jay White is prominent to be a figure in New Japan. For how long, we don't really know. Juice and David Finlay have been in New Japan, have been in Impact Wrestling for quite some months now. So it is very possible that Jay will be down in New Impact Wrestling for at least 2 months. Because remember, we do have G1 Climax coming up in September. So I would like to believe they're going to have Jay White come back to Japan in time for the G1. Now, once again, COVID's running rampant right now all over the world again, so we don't know what's going to go on right now. And hopefully Jay White don't get stuck in America. Would that be a bad thing? Maybe not. I don't know. Here's where I get into some spoiler territory. Now, if you watch Impact Wrestling, if you don't want anything to be spoiled for you, I suggest you move forward at least 3 minutes. 3 minutes starting right now. So, on a recent taping of Impact Wrestling, Jay White seemed to have recruited a new member to the Bullet Club. That being an Impact Wrestling roster member. And, you know, when I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, who's joining the Bullet Club? You know, they don't really have the full Bullet Club in Japan, but, you know, I mean, in America. But, you know, with Jay White having somebody under his tutelage, like, that would be something great. And I lost my mind when I found out the person that Jay White gave the shirt to, and he accepted the shirt from him, and it seems like he has joined the Bullet Club, at least temporarily, hopefully permanently, is none other than Chris Bay. Chris Bay. Now, listen, I am a fan of Chris Bay. My first time seeing Chris Bay was at an independent wrestling show in Las Vegas, Nevada in 2019. Me and my friend Alejandro, we went to an FSW Las Vegas show in support of someone who used to be my friend, not going to mention his name. In support of him, he was wrestling on that show. The main event of that show was Chris Bay versus Shotzi Blackheart. And they had a really good match, and it impressed me so much that I followed both of those people's careers. And I'm happy to say that Shotzi Blackheart is actually now on Smackdown. Good for her, and that Chris Bay is, you know, doing his thing on Impact Wrestling. But now here we are 2 years later, and Chris Bay is a part of the Bullet Club. Now, here's what excites me about this. Number one, to my knowledge, I don't remember there being any black people in the Bullet Club. You know, there's Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, but they're I don't want to say Samoan because I don't think they're technically Samoan. What's the terminology for? Hold on, I want to get this correct. I don't want to offend anybody. I know they're not Samoan. Tongan. They're Tongan. Duh. Tama Tonga. What the fuck? Anyway, please ignore that. So they're Tongan. Bad Luck Fale. I believe Bad Luck Fale. He's something else. What is Bad Luck Fale? Bad Luck Fale. He's also Tongan. So Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, they're Tongan. Like, there's nobody who's black in the Bullet Club. Everybody's either Asian or Tongan or white. So to have some melanin in the group in some capacity is just amazing to me. And not only is it a melanin influence, but he's a great melanin talent. And he's under the tutelage of Jay White. Now, what I find very intriguing about this is that Chris Bay and Jay White are almost complete polar opposites in their movesets. Like, Chris Bay, he's very fluid, very smooth, bit on the high flyer side, and a striker. Now, Jay White is a lot more technical, a lot more slow, a lot more plotted. They're very different styles of wrestling, very much almost different ideologies in how their styles approach each other. So to see them teaming up, it's like an oddball pairing. But if Jay White is going to be like mentoring Chris Bay, that could be something. That could be something. So I might actually have to watch Impact Wrestling just to see how this turns out. It's really crazy because Impact Wrestling has so much going on right now. They have Kenny Omega as the world champion. They have the Good Brothers. They have Finjuice. Now they have Jay White. And then on top of that, Bound for Glory, they just announced in October, is going to be a show featuring talent from AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, AAA, and NWA. Like, Impact Wrestling is doing so much good shit right now, and it's just incredible how, like, they're not really getting much of an audience from it. Like, you look at the ratings for TV, and they're still pretty slumped. They're not really doing well for TV ratings. I mean, it's still very samesies. It kind of sucks, honestly. Like, as good of a job as they're doing keeping up, I don't know how well booking goes for them, but as well as they're doing with the workload they have, I feel like they definitely deserve more ratings, higher ratings than what they're getting. But that could be a testament to how they treat the rest of the roster. Because at the end of the day, Finn Juice, Jay White, Kenny Omega, those are temporary solutions for long-term problems. We look at 2022, do you really think that those guys are still going to be in Impact Wrestling? I don't think so. What's going to happen next year when all those guys are gone? Are the ratings going to plummet even more? It's one of those questions you have to answer. You have to really ask yourself. Like, what could they do to get the ratings up if this is not working? I don't know. I honestly do not know. But now that I'm done talking about that portion, let's actually get into WWE. Let's talk about Smackdown. So Smackdown, this is the first show, non-WrestleMania show, back in front of crowds. It was a very big arena. I don't remember exactly what arena they were in, but it was a big for a Smackdown show. The crowd was loud and hot and heavy. They opened up the show with Vince McMahon, of all people. He got a great standing ovation, people bowing for him. These same people go online every single week saying fuck Vince McMahon and fuck WWE, and I hope Vince McMahon dies so Triple H take. These are the same people. The same people who say this are the same people who get excited every time they hear his theme song. There's a wise man out there who is not wrestling at the moment, but soon will be, who had a correct word for this type of fan. And I believe that word was fickle. I think he was right on that sentiment he said about 2 years ago. But Vince McMahon comes out and he's like, "What? I was about to do the Vince voice. That was gonna really kill my throat." He's like, "Where the hell have you been?" And then he walks off. Like he had no reason to be out there. He just wanted to get an ovation. That was it. But then we started off with the first match of the night, which ideally could have been the main event, but I understand why they went on first, and it was a great decision for them to go on first. It was Roman Reigns and the Usos versus Edge and the Mysterios. Roman Reigns was the first man to come out, and he came out to a crowd of boos, some cheers, because the Smarks are out there and they're out and about, but mostly boos. And he had a god tier entrance. We've been seeing Roman Reigns in the 4K, the 8K camera entrance, all the Thunderdome era, but now seeing it in front of a crowd was just like, damn, man, I'm so happy to have crowds back. The Usos came out behind them, then the Mysterios came out, and then Edge's theme hit, and the crowd lost their shit. It was a thunderous reaction when Edge came out. It was almost on par with his entrance at WrestleMania, at Royal Rumble last year when he first came back. That's how loud that was. Like, the entrances alone leading into this show gave it a very big fight feel, and honestly and truly, I tweeted out during the show, like, that entrance from Edge and just everything going into this first match made me happy to be a wrestling fan. Like, that brought back a feeling that I have for WWE. I would say well over, like, the last time I had that feeling may have been like 6 years ago in 2015. Like, I legitimately was excited and happy to be watching a WWE show just from that first match. And the first match did its job. The match itself was good. It was brief. It did not go above 10 minutes. I think it could have gone a bit longer. But, I'm not complaining. We got some good stuff in here. Everyone got a chance to interact with each other, got their chance to shine. I did not really like the finish, though, of Rey Mysterio trying for an O'Connor roll, and Jey Uso kind of launches himself off, and Jimmy punches Rey in the face, and then he gets rolled up for the pin. I was not a fan of the roll-up finish, and I'm going to talk about that a bit more as we go on into these reviews, because this is not the first time I'm going to be talking about a goddamn roll-up finish in WWE. But, it led into a win for the Bloodline, which I didn't expect them to lose. Roman Reigns and the Usos, they're bleeding SmackDown, are leading the charge, getting the pin over Rey Mysterio. Gets a good win from them going into Money in the Bank. Now, after the match, Edge starts laying out the Usos. Roman Reigns comes out of nowhere with a Superman punch. Roman grabs a chair. He takes the leg off the chair to go and choke Edge, but Edge recuperates and spears Roman, taking out the leg of the chair. He then chokes Roman Reigns, gets him to tap out. Of course, not a match, not official, but Roman Reigns taps out in the middle of the ring, and then Edge poses with the Universal Championship, leading into Money in the Bank. This is not the end of the show, though. Not the end of the show. So after that, you had a backstage segment with Edge and Seth Rollins. Seth said that he hopes that Edge wins so that way he can win Money in the Bank and he could cash in on Edge. And, it's harkening back to their feud. Well, not feud, but their last interaction in 2015 where Seth threatened to curb stomp Edge. They're getting a match with each other at SummerSlam. So this is really the precursor for that. Sami Zayn then came out with his conspiracy stuff. This is a conspiracy. He thinks he's R-Truth now. But he was cut off by the main roster return of Finn Balor. And, good for Finn Balor. I'm happy for Finn Balor coming to SmackDown. Because obviously him being on NXT is a death wish for him at this point. As seen on Monday Night Raw, if you are on NXT right now, you might as well just start packing your shit now because obviously Vince McMahon does not like you. But I'll talk about that when we get to Monday Night Raw. So Finn Balor, he saw the writing on the wall and he escaped. He's now on SmackDown. He came out, laid out Sami Zayn, hit him with a coup de grace, and let his presence known. He's wearing blue gear, so he's obviously on the SmackDown brand now. And after that, we got a tag team match. We had the team of Shotzi and Tegan. Oh, I think Shotzi and Nox is their name now. Shotzi and Nox versus the women's tag team champions Natalya and Tamina. So this match was short. It was not even past 5 minutes, so I barely wanted to cover it, honestly. I'm happy to see my baby Tegan Nox on the show. Shotzi Blackheart, like I said earlier, I first saw her 2 years ago at a live event with Chris Bay, so I'm extremely happy to see her on this show as well. I'm pretty sure I took a picture with her when she had her last independent wrestling show in Philadelphia, but that's on my old phone, so it may be on there, it may not be on there. But they had a match. Can't really say what happened because I was not really paying too much attention. Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega were on commentary, so they were very distracting. Speaking of commentary, Pat McAfee is a really good commentator. I thoroughly enjoyed Pat McAfee on this show. I did not think I would enjoy Pat McAfee as much as I did. The pairing of him and Michael Cole works a lot, and if I ever do watch SmackDown, I would look forward to hearing Pat McAfee again. If not, then I'm probably going to listen to the show on mute. But Shotzi and Nox, they were going at Natalya and Tamina. Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, they started going at each other, even though they're not involved in a match at all. This led to Natalya getting distracted, and then Nox rolled her up. And that led to Nox and Shotzi getting their second straight victory over the champions. Now, this was not a championship match, despite them getting a victory last week. So I'm assuming that this coming Friday, they're getting a championship match. At least my assumption. Afterwards, Natalya and Tamina started laying waste into Zelina Vega. And then they tried to go after Liv Morgan. But then Liv took out both of those women. She got into the ring and pointed up at the Money in the Bank briefcase. I saw her post-match interview online. The crowd was very much behind Liv. I laughed because people actually thought Liv was going to win Money in the Bank, but I'll talk about that when I get to the review of Money in the Bank. Bianca Belair versus Carmela for the SmackDown Women's Championship was a okay match. I'll give Carmela some credit. I thought she's improved a lot since the last time I've seen her, at least wrestling consistently. While this match didn't really go much, I think it went maybe a minute or two over the opening match, so it was technically the longest match on the show. It was, like I said, it was okay. It was not better than the opening match. Bianca's countering Carmela's guillotine choke into a delayed vertical suplex was a dope feat of strength, but it's Bianca Belair. What do you expect? And in the end, Bianca Belair ended up whipping Carmela in the stomach with her braid and then hitting a KOD onto her to get the pin and retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. Forgettable match. You won't remember it once the night is over. Otis and Chad Gable had a backstage segment, and Chad Gable is basically the coach for Otis now, I guess. I don't watch SmackDown, so I don't know how new this storyline is. Otis with no beard and cut hair is a cursed image that I never want to see in my life again. Cesaro came in the frame. He got pushed. That led to a match. And the match literally never got going. It's a minute into the match. Chad Gable ran in and German suplex Cesaro and caused a DQ. I was actually kind of mad because I was actually kind of looking forward to see what Otis can do. And it was ruined literally a minute in. Otis then came in and he stopped Cesaro from swinging Chad Gable, hit a Vader bomb, and yeah, I'm guessing they're still going to start feuding now. Paul Heyman had a backstage interview that was cut off by Big E. And Baron Corbin came out old man hair, graying beard, ripped up shirt. The man looked like he's going through a tough time right now after losing his crown to Shinsuke Nakamura. And he was on here rambling about how he lost his car, he lost his investment. Sounds like me with AMC stocks. Lost his savings and lost his possibly gonna lose his house very soon, and may have to move in with his step parents. Like, oof, insulting. Can't believe it. So Baron Corbin says that he's opening up a crowd GoFundMe page, the Baron Corbin Fund, with a target goal of $100,000. You too can help Baron Corbin get back on his feet. I think Baron Corbin is going to stay broke. And Kevin Owens comes out. He backhand compliments. Well, Baron Corbin backhand compliments Kevin Owens. He gets hit with a stunner. And that leads into the main event of the show. Kevin Owens versus Biggie versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins. And this is a fairly good Fatal 4-Way match. Nowhere near as great as any other Fatal 4-Ways I've seen in the past. It's not touching Kevin Owens, Cesaro, The Miz, and Dolph Ziggler. I'm not doing nothing. But it was a fairly good Fatal 4-Way match. I enjoyed what I saw. We even got to see Kevin Owens doing an elbow drop off a ladder onto Shinsuke, onto the announce table, which is pretty cool. The match ended out with Seth Rollins curb stomping Biggie onto a ladder and getting the pin. Seth Rollins won the match. Afterwards, he got on a ladder, climbed up it, and grabbed the Money in the Bank briefcase and posed the show with the briefcase in hand. Which should have told me that Seth was not winning that Sunday, but I would still have my money on Seth Rollins. What a dumbass that looked like. But now, let's hop into Money in the Bank. We start off on the pre-show with the Mysterios versus the Usos for the Smackdown Tag Team Championships. Now, this I thought was better than the 6-man tag team match on Smackdown. Much more dynamic. I enjoyed a lot of the saves from, the family teams. I think they left a lot more on the table for a future match, possibly at SummerSlam. The finish I really liked. So, Rey Mysterio has Jey Uso down on the rope for a 619 attempt. He goes for the 619, and Jimmy Uso hops on the apron in just enough time to take the brunt of the move and stop the impact, protecting his legal brother who was already in the ring. So when Mysterio goes for a West Coast pop, Jey Uso super kicks him in the air, but only gets a 2 count. The Usos both try for stereo Uso splashes, but then Dominic, he hops on there and he takes off Jey Uso, and then Jimmy takes off Dominic from the apron, and Mysterio is just left in there. He sees his opportunity. He goes to charge at Jimmy Uso, but gets misstepped and rolled up. Now, once again, I'm not a fan of the roll-up finish. You guys know that. It's being overused now. But he goes for it, and Jey Uso slides on the apron and uses his feet to support the lower back of Jimmy Uso, so that way the pin hold is still secured. It was cheating, but it was a very unique way to cheat because the referee didn't see it. And they got the pin, and the Usos became 7-time SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I like this match a lot. I did not like the finish of it to say it was a great match, but it was definitely a really good one. We're going to open up with the women's Money in the Bank match. I did not write down who was in this match. I did not write down who was in the match, but it's alright. I'm going to take a swig of water real quick. So in the women's Money in the Bank match, we had Zelina Vega, Tamina, Natalya, Naomi, Nikki Ash, Liv Morgan, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss. This match was... It was dog duty on a stick. It was no bueno. No bueno. It was all over the place. A lot of the women just didn't know what they wanted to do. The spots were not very crazy. I didn't expect them to be like over the top or anything because it's a women's Money in the Bank match. But they weren't very captivating. It was going on for quite a while too. I didn't know when it was going to end. And I think it felt so long because it wasn't good. But then the finish came, which honestly kind of made me kind of mad because I thought it was so stupid. You had 3 ladders set up in a ring, which is not the first time we've seen this happen. It's a dumb fucking spot WWE does in their Money in the Bank ladder matches. It's a trope now at this point. But you have 3 ladders set up in a ring. So obviously, Alexa climbs, Asuka climbs 1 ladder, Liv climbs 1 ladder, Naomi climbs that ladder, Natalya, Tamina, Zelina, they all climb the ladder. And they're all battling at the top. Nobody thinks, hey, let me grab the briefcase right above me. No, let me fight everybody on this ladder until we eventually fall off. So they're all fighting. And then Nikki Ash the smartest person in the ring, climbs the ladder, somehow climbs the ladder. Nobody sees her. Nobody feels her. She climbs the ladder, makes her way to the center, and grabs the briefcase. And that was the match. And Nikki Ash wins. Now, I like Nikki Cross. I've seen her since her NXT days, when she was in Sanity, after Sanity, going to Smackdown without Sanity, basically, being Crazy Nikki, being basically meaningless and just on a roster. Then we got Country Town, stupid theme song, Nikki Cross, and now we have Avengers wannabe Nikki Ash. And when I first saw the gimmick, I was like, they're ruining Nikki Cross. And then I heard that was her idea for the gimmick. And I'm like, well, happy that she got her idea across. But I don't like the gimmick personally. Just because she did the gimmick doesn't mean I have to like it. I personally don't like it. But listen, apparently they liked the gimmick enough to have her win the match. Because she was the very last person I expected to win this match. The very last person I expected to win the match. And she was the smartest one. So her name is Almost Superhero. She basically is a superhero at this point. Well, not almost. Well, not yet. Not yet. She's almost a superhero. She's basically midway at that point with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Nikki Ash wins. The crowd, they pop. They pop. I think they pop because they're more surprised than they wanted Nikki to win. Because when Nikki came out, she didn't really get a reaction. So I told you already. They fucking care. But Nikki won that match. We then head into the Raw Tag Team Championship match between AJ Styles and Omos, defending against the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar. I still don't know who Eric and Ivar are. I think Ivar is Hanson and Eric is Rowe. That's what I think, at least. Ivar, or I'm going to just call him Hanson because that's how I know him as. Hanson, as always, the most impressive guy in the match. Big guy, doing big guy moves, doing stuff big guys should not be doing. You know, when you're in here with a guy who's Omos, and Omos is 7'4", and he's young. I think Omos is like, what, 26? Like, he's not much older than me, 26, 27 years old. For a big guy, he does well, but he's not, he's more mobile than like a Great Khali, but there's nothing about him that screams, oh my god, this guy's a bunch of potential, push him to the moon. Nothing about this guy outside of his height really screams potential. So when you have him in here and gets another big guy who can do more, he gets outshined. And I thought that was kind of a dumb thing to do. Because when you have him in here with Hanson, yeah, he's throwing Hanson around the ring and whatnot, but Hanson out here doing cartwheels and shit, and it's like, well, what is Omos doing? Just standing there, you know, walking, running, trying to run. I don't know. I just thought it was dumb to have Ivar in here with Omos, because Omos didn't look good at all. I mean, he looked okay, but Ivar outshined him. Omos did end up, well, he didn't end up. He ended up hitting the Khali. I call it the Khali double hand choke slam because the Great Khali did it. Now Omos is doing it. The Khali double hand choke slam onto Eric, pinned him, and retained the Raw Tag Team Championships. AJ Styles existed in this match, not gonna lie. Ever since AJ Styles and Omos been teaming, I almost forgot. Get it? I almost forgot. I almost forget that AJ Styles is even on the roster. Like, I don't know why they have him teaming up. We have Bobby Lashley defending the WWE Championship against Kofi Kingston. I was excited for this match. Two black men competing for the WWE Championship. Don't know when's the last time that happened or if ever it did happen, but I was excited. Kofi Kingston hasn't had a championship match since he lost the championship to Brock Lesnar 2 years ago in 8 seconds. So this is technically, I guess, his rematch clause. And, you know, I wasn't expecting a 5-star match. Wasn't even expecting a 4-star match. But this was disappointing. Very disappointing. This is a squash match. And you know what? Let's just say, okay, you should have expected a squash match, right? It's Bobby Lashley. You got to make him look strong. You should have expected a squash match. Okay, this squash match was not even that good. Like, I've seen great squash matches. Look at just about any Brock Lesnar match in the last 5 years. Just about all of them are great squash matches. This match in here, they tried to replicate Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from SummerSlam 2014, and it wasn't even an eighth of that match. I'm not trying to make it seem like this match was bad, but it just was very, 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 very lifeless. Like, it did not do much of anything. You know, Kofi Kingston had like 2 hope spots, maybe, but even those hope spots, it really didn't feel like he stood a chance at all. You know, when John Cena was in the match of Brock Lesnar, John Cena didn't really seem like he stood a chance. But the thing about John Cena is that it's John Cena. And you expect at some point he's going to come back and win. And it just never came. So that was a spectacle. That was amazing. That was tremendous. It was something that maybe never could be replicated again. With Kofi Kingston, yeah, he's a babyface that can come back, but it's like, with Bobby Lashley dominating him the whole match, Kofi Kingston, it still didn't feel like Kofi Kingston had a chance of winning this match. And even when it got into that point where maybe he could, he just got beat the fuck up the whole time. Got hit with 3 dominators, then locked in the hurt lock, and at points he was just stopping it and just it was depressing. It was embarrassing for Kofi Kingston. I mean, you come out of this match, I mean, you look at the Brock Lesnar Kofi Kingston match from Smackdown 2019. You look at that match, and you feel genuinely bad for Kofi Kingston because he did not even get a fair shot. He got hit with an F5, and that was it. This match, Kofi Kingston got obliterated by Bobby Lashley for 7 minutes. I was embarrassed for Kofi Kingston. I came away from this not wanting to see a rematch with Kofi Kingston. I felt like if you never want to put Kofi Kingston in another WWE Championship match again, you know what? You have a point. Because if this is what he brings to the table, he shouldn't be in that spot anymore. Bobby Lashley retained. I don't know what the result you thought I was going to give after explaining what I just explained, but Bobby Lashley retained. That led into the Raw Women's Championship match between Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. This was a really good match. Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley had a match WrestleMania last year that was great. One of my favorite matches from WrestleMania 37. And this was not, I would say, the same level, but it was, I would say, maybe right beneath that match. They just have really good chemistry. Charlotte Flair, as much as people hate her, or hate to say it, Charlotte Flair is one of the best women's wrestlers in North America. She just gets it. She gets how to be a heel. She knows when to have the correct spots, when to try to get the crowd down, when to get them back up. And Rhea Ripley, being the power heavy style that she is, it just works so well with Charlotte Flair and her limber, body form and her being able to do moonsault. They just work well together. They just work so well together. And this match was almost great. Almost great. Not quite there, but almost. Charlotte Flair was not a fan of the finish, though. I mean, I get the finish. They protected Rhea in a sense. They had Charlotte Flair put Rhea's foot in between the steps. It kicked her 3 times, got it to the ring, locked in the figure 8, and then Rhea Ripley struggled for a minute, and then she tapped out. They protected her. Was not a fan of Charlotte winning the match. But going into Raw, I understand why it happened. I just don't think Charlotte Flair needs to be a 13-time champion. But at this point, I don't feel like I should even get frustrated or come on here and rant and rave, because it's like, she's at 13 reigns. She is going to pass Ric Flair's record. It is not a matter of when. Well, I mean, it's not a matter of how. It's not a matter of who. It's a matter of when. When is she going to pass Ric Flair's reign? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So you might as well just get her the next 3 reigns over with, so she could tie up with Ric Flair and John Cena. And then maybe what they can do is they can have John Cena beat Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, and then at WrestleMania next year, you can do Charlotte Flair versus John Cena for the Universal Championship. And that's when you have the 17 versus 17. Who's going to get it? Ric Flair as a special guest referee. I love not being serious about wrestling on a serious podcast. Don't you love it? I love it. But Charlotte Flair, she's 13-time champion. That leads us into the men's Money in the Bank match. Seth Rollins, Ricochet, King Nakamura, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and John Morrison. Oh, and Biggie. This was the best match of the night. Probably one of the best Money in the Bank matches I've seen in a very long time. Might be top 3 for me. A lot of crazy spots. I mean, the first opening of the match was just crazy and insane. Dives all over the place. Big matchups. You had John Morrison and Seth Rollins, the Drip versus Drip. I guess if you're a fan of that shit, I thought it was kind of funny. Ricochet's diving all over the place. Matt Riddle's out here doing his thing. You had Big E and Drew McIntyre going at each other. It was nice. And then once you got deeper into the match, you had all the crazy spots happening. Morrison's flipping all over the place. Kevin Owens is doing dot. Like, it was everything you want out of a spectacular ladder match was in here. And then ultimately, the winner was somebody the fans either wanted to win or were happy won the match, and that was Big E. You know, when I came into this match, I had 2 picks. I had Seth Rollins as my main pick, which once again, considering the end of SmackDown, I should have bet against him. But my backup was Matt Riddle, and that's because Riddle is somebody who I shockingly did not know was going to get over the way he did with Vince McMahon. Apparently, Vince loves this guy. He's on Raw every week. He's in prime storylines with Randy Orton and getting main events. He loves Matt Riddle. And I thought there might be a chance that they might pull the trigger and have Matt Riddle win the match. And maybe that could be a part of the Randy Orton and Matt Riddle storyline going into SummerSlam. I don't know. I thought it was possible. Drew McIntyre was in here. He could possibly win. I think the crowd would have turned on him if he did win. He even got some boos when he came out. Big E was the winner of the match. Big E brought down the briefcase and the crowd went insane. And listen, I was happy too. Big E is a guy who I've been behind since his time in WWE with Dolph Ziggler. I always saw potential in him, and I can't honestly say that he's like one of my favorites. But you know, I always saw him as being a future world champion if they ever got behind him, and this is now the time. You know, with Kofi Kingston, hopefully he doesn't have the same luck as Kofi Kingston did, because Kofi Kingston had some shit luck with that championship after winning it. But I think that he could cash on any champion. He could cash on a Roman. Possibly. Let's talk about the main event. Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship against Edge. This match... let me get a drink of water before I talk about it, because I have some things I want to say about this match. This match was as New Japan as North America gets. This was a slow build New Japan style match. The first act, a lot of rest holds. Edge is making that prime comeback, and then the shift starts with Roman Reigns, and that was more North American than New Japan. But then it just slows down a lot, and it's a lot of in-ring emotion, a lot of facial expressions, a lot of body language, a lot of psychology really carrying that first act. Then you get into Act 2, and Roman Reigns is really dominating. Edge is having some hoop spots here and there, a spear through the barricade, what have you, but they still never kick into high gear. And you're waiting for them to kick into high gear. They're approaching 20 minutes. They're approaching 30 minutes. And they never escape Act 3. They never escaped Act 2. They never do. You never get that epic you're waiting for. It never comes. The highs were very, very low, I should say. And then we get to what essentially I would say made this match go from possibly a great to just downward spiral, because it became overbooked hell. Roman Reigns grabs a chair. He breaks off the leg. And I've seen this like 18 times by now, so I know what's about to happen. He goes to choke out Edge. Edge escapes, headbutting Roman, and he sits in the chokehold on Roman. But the referee got knocked down in the events right before this happened. So the referee's down and out. The Usos come out. Long ramp. They make their way down. The Mysterios stop them before they can even get into the ring. Chaotic camera cuts where they're focusing on Edge and Roman. Then the Usos and the Mysterios. Then Edge Roman. Then the Usos and the Mysterios. Then Edge Roman. I'm like, oh my god, Kevin Dunn. Please, somebody throw some acid in this guy's face so we can get somebody else on the goddamn whoever is in charge of production. Like, please. I'm so sick of being sick from these goddamn camera cuts. It was so chaotic I almost wanted to turn the match off. But, it was high everything, so I'm like, you know what? We're bearing with it. We're motioning with it. This is my second go-round, by the way. On the first go-round, I was pretty like, okay with what was happening. But then, after all that happens, and the Mysterios and the Usos battle to the back, Seth Rollins comes out from the crowd, and he super kicks Edge, laying him out. Now, after Seth Rollins leaves, the referee still has not come out yet. This has been 3 minutes now. The Usos have come out. The Mysterios have come out. Seth Rollins has come out. You could have sent the President of the United States out to the ring, and the referee still was nowhere to be seen. I was getting frustrated, because normally it doesn't take this long to get another referee out to the ring. But once again, hokey and overbooked as hell. Roman Reigns at this point is now up to his feet, and he's setting up Edge for a spear. Edge counters this with his own spear. He goes for the pin, and for a split second before the referee comes into frame, you could see Roman Reigns preemptively kick out, which I thought was funny. But then the referee slides into the ring, goes for the 3 count. Roman Reigns kicks out at 2. Crowd is chanting, "This is awesome." I thought maybe they were still stuck in this ladder match. But the tide, at this point, is starting to shift. I'm like, yes, this is Act 3. This is when we're going to get the epics. This is when we're going to start seeing the end come soon. So now, Edge is up to his feet. He's going for the spear onto Roman Reigns. But then Seth Rollins comes back out. Gets on the apron. Distracts Edge. Edge boots Seth Rollins off the apron. Roman Reigns spears Edge. Counts him. 3 count. That's the end of the match. What a fart in church the end of that match was. A distraction finish to end out a 33-minute long match. My God. That's WWE for you. I expected much better from a Roman Reigns match, as this man has been really carrying WWE on his shoulders for the last year. I expected a lot better from an Edge match. This was overbooked, and I didn't like it. I wanted to like this match a lot. I really did. But I could say I liked the first 25 minutes. 15 minutes. Post-match is what everybody remembers the most. And I think this post-match might be why people rate this match so high, even though you shouldn't rate a match after what happened after the match. After the match, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, they stand face to face. And I got excited because I really want to see Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins match. They go face to face with one another, and Edge gets up. Like 30 seconds after getting speared, Edge gets up and he fights Seth Rollins to the back. As if he did not just wrestle a 33-minute long match, he brawls with Seth Rollins to the back. Roman Reigns back on his feet, as if he did not also just wrestle a 33-minute long match. He's up to his feet, grabs a microphone, and he says, "Now the whole world can acknowledge me." And then the trumpets go off. And John Cena, and this was the loudest crowd pop, possibly since Edge came back. This was the loudest crowd pop. This could be, I would say, this is one of the loudest crowd pops of the modern era. Both he and Edge at the Royal Rumble 2020. John Cena comes out. First of all, John Cena did the Too Sweet, which I thought was really cool. But the best part of this was Michael Cole on commentary, which I think a lot of fans shit on Michael Cole a lot, and rightfully so, because Michael Cole most of the time sucks on commentary. But Michael Cole did a great job calling John Cena's return. He's like, "Oh my God," I can't do it, but "Oh my God, it's John Cena." And then Pat McAfee says, "Where?" And bro, second go around, listen to that, I laughed my ass off. Pat McAfee, never change, please, never change. John Cena comes out to the ring, doing his entrance. He eyes down Roman, and then the show ends. And I'm like, yes, John Cena is back. The fans finally get what they want. We head into Monday Night Raw. John Cena opens up Monday Night Raw. Big pop again. John Cena gets the microphone, and we are right back to 2010. John Cena is doing his normal shtick, doing his rambling, talking about memes and all this kind of stuff, then weaves into his challenge to Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, which we all knew was coming. Matt Riddle then comes out, and they both say, "Bro." And that was the segment. I thought maybe for a second we were going to get Matt Riddle versus John Cena, which I never in my lifetime thought we would have gotten, but I was excited, and all we got was a bro off. I was pissed, but hey, such is life. C'est la vie. C'est la vie. Side note in here, WWE has announced the Summer of Cena. Not the Summer of Punk. That was 10 years ago. The Summer of Cena. They confirmed 15 dates John Cena will appear on. A few of them being house shows and 4 of them at least being Smackdowns. All of this leading up to SummerSlam. So we're going to be getting some John Cena matches in here leading into SummerSlam. At least that's what I think. Now, I don't think John Cena is going to appear on these house shows just to appear on them. I expect he will wrestle at least a handful of matches. If I could fantasy book some John Cena matches I would like to see heading into SummerSlam. I would like to see John Cena and Edge team up to go up against Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. That would be a great go-home match leading into SummerSlam. That should be ideally the go-home match leading into SummerSlam. I would like to see John Cena and Seth Rollins have a singles match with each other. I would like to see John Cena and possibly Jey Uso. Jey Uso had a really good feud with Roman Reigns last year. I think he could have a really good singles match with John Cena. You could definitely give us another John Cena Cesaro match. John Cena. I'm booking too many matches here, but I think John Cena is a temporary salute. That's a whole video idea. I'm not going to spoil it. John Cena's here for a short period of time. He's here for a good time, not a long time. And while he's here for that good time, give us some good matches. And like I said, you don't even have to do a single fucking singles match leading into SummerSlam. But by God, please, if I ask of anything, give me John Cena and Edge versus Roman and Seth. That's all I ask. They give us going into SummerSlam. That's all I ask. All I ask. Now after that, we head into a Charlotte Flair promo. Now this is every Charlotte Flair promo I've ever heard in my entire life. I am the queen. I am the best. I am a Flair. I am the ladder. I am the opportunity. I am the one that... No, let me stop. Just saying how she's everything. Now, in the midst of her promo, listing her accolades, she brings up how she's a one-time Divas champion in the final. She's a 5-time Raw Women's champion and a 5-time SmackDown Women's champion, making her an 11-time Women's champion in WWE. And when I heard that, I was hella confused because I said, well, if I'm correct, weren't you a 2-time NXT Women's champion? You know, the championship you beat Rhea Ripley for last year at WrestleMania? Like, what the fuck? Like, who scripted her to not mention NXT at all? The same brand that Rhea Ripley, her opponent, came from. The same brand she came from. The same brand she was on last year. This time last year, Charlotte Flair was on NXT, and they scripted her to completely ignore her whole NXT run. Completely insulting. Insulting to NXT that WWE made them feel that insignificant. But that's not even the end of it. I'm going to continue on that rant a bit later on in this. And I can't get too heavy because my throat hurts. But I'm going to talk about it. I thought that was crazy. Rhea Ripley came out and it led to her getting a rematch in the main event against Charlotte for the Women's Championship. So then we got Bobby Lashley. Now, Bobby Lashley is a WWE Open Challenge. He's going to defend the WWE Championship against anybody who accepts the Open Challenge. And who accepts the Open Challenge but the returning Keith Lee? Keith Lee's been out of WWE for 7 months. Since before Royal Rumble. And this is his return match for the WWE Championship. And everyone's all hype and excited, like, oh my God, Keith. And I'm sitting here like, do y'all really think for a second that Keith Lee is going to beat Bobby Lashley out of the blue for the WWE Championship? y'all are high as hell or something. Y'all must have got into Matt Riddle's stash. If y'all think Keith Lee was going to beat Bobby Lashley on the show for the WWE Championship. Now, if this was a regular singles match, yeah, go ahead. Be pissed about him losing, because he did lose. Be pissed about him losing. But this was a WWE Championship match. There was no chance Keith Lee was going to beat Bobby Lashley. Should he have lost? No, he shouldn't have. But this was also a WWE Championship match. What should not have happened was that they should not have had Keith Lee in this match, period. If Keith Lee was going to return, he should have returned against somebody else and won the match and built up to this match. But to have him return against Bobby Lashley and lose, that did Keith Lee no favors whatsoever. And that's where I think fans got pissed. But I don't really have the vernacular to get pissed about this, because it's fucking Monday Night Raw. What made me angry was after the fact, because out comes Billiam Goldberg, dragging his old ass out to the ring to let Bobby Lashley know that he's next. And I said to myself, well, Bobby Lashley, he has a lot of people that could challenge him for the WWE Championship. Honestly, I'd have preferred Keith Lee and Bobby Lashley rematch at SummerSlam. But out comes Bill Goldberg, the same Goldberg that lost the WWE Championship to Drew McIntyre at Royal Rumble this very year. He lost his championship opportunity to Drew McIntyre. And prior to that, he lost his last WWE Championship match to Braun Strowman at last year's WrestleMania. So he's had 2 WWE Championship matches. Technically 3, because he had to beat somebody to win the championship. He beat The Fiend. So he's had 3 championship matches. And 2 of them, he lost. The last 2, he lost. But he gets to walk in and declare that he's next. What did you do to get that championship other than be Goldberg? But fans, they cheer this. You people... And, I don't mean that. I don't mean that. You people out there that cheer this shit, you are the reason why this company is as bad as it's ever been. Because you should be rejecting Goldberg getting a championship opportunity against Bobby Lashley. You should be rejecting Bobby Lashley beating Keith Lee. You should be rejecting the next match I'm going to talk about, but you keep cheering them. So I don't want to hear you motherfuckers go online and complain when you cheer this shit. When you go out there and you cheer Vince McMahon coming out. You're part of the problem. And that's why I get into the next match. Karrion Kross versus Jeff Hardy. Karrion Kross is the NXT champion and represents the NXT brand. And how did they debut him on the Monday Night Raw brand? They strip him of everything that he is. His entrance is not the same. No scarlet. No monochrome effect, which is black and white for all of you who are not educated in, camera work, which I don't expect you to be. No depth of camera field. No smoke. No traditional walk down. Nothing. He emerges from some darkness with this warrior pose, and he walks down to the ramp. And yeah, he looks cool. He looks menacing somewhat. But he looked far more menacing with his traditional NXT entrance with Scarlett. And all that was stripped away from him. And his opponent was Jeff Hardy. And Jeff Hardy, I marked out. I marked like all of you did. After 11, 12 years, this guy finally got back No More Words. One of my favorite theme songs of all time is Jeff Hardy's No More Words theme song from back in 2007 to 2010. And he got his theme song back. And the crowd went insane. I went insane. But that's when it started. That's when you realize that Karrion Kross was done for. Because think about it this way. And a lot of you probably don't even realize this, but I want you to really think about what I'm about to say to you here. Karrion Kross
A guy with a very specific entrance on NXT television had that stripped away from him. Bare bones, completely. But then Jeff Hardy, a guy who lost a slew of matches from what I heard and wasn't on TV for quite some time, came back to no more words. To his old entrance that they knew would pop the crowd. Some from the very entrance, they already made Karrion Kross look insignificant and beneath Jeff Hardy. From the very beginning of the entrance, he looked beneath Jeff Hardy. But then you get into the match that only lasted 1 minute and 40 seconds, and Jeff Hardy power bombs Karrion Kross off the top rope, bridges the rope, so he cheated technically, bridges the ropes, and pins the NXT champion. Jeff Hardy pins Karrion Kross. It is absolutely embarrassing and baffling that they did this to the NXT champion. The same NXT champion who was undefeated up until that very match. That very match, he was undefeated, walked in with a streak, with a purpose, and he lost in 2 minutes to Jeff Hardy. And I have to take this back to 2015 when Kevin Owens made his debut on Monday Night Raw as the NXT champion against John Cena. And when John Cena and Kevin Owens had their very first match, do you want to know who won? Kevin Owens won their first match. He won their first match. And guess what? He didn't last 2 minutes. He got 15, 17 minutes with John Cena. He got a classic out of John Cena. And he won. And you want to know what that did for Kevin Owens? It made him look like a star. You want to know what that made for NXT? It made NXT look prevalent. It made you want to tune into NXT because Kevin Owens looked like a credible champion. That was 6 years ago. 6 years later, you have a guy who arguably may have been a bigger deal than Kevin Owens because he has a more profound entrance and he's undefeated. And this is how they treat him? They bury him in 2 minutes? To Jeff Hardy? I honestly don't understand why Vince McMahon hates NXT so much. I'm convinced that this man he resents NXT. I think he resents NXT. From the call-ups that he repeatedly keeps on putting down underneath of everybody else, to Karrion Kross as the NXT champion, I think Vince McMahon truly just resents the fact that NXT has been looked at as the better brand for years, and now that they've been beaten by AEW and ran off of television, he honestly sees NXT as a pile of garbage. That's what I believe. I might be wrong. I've heard rumors that they want to humble Karrion Kross. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Get the fuck out of here with that welcome to the big leagues, kid bullshit. You mean to tell me that Karrion Kross needed to get humbled, undefeated, as the NXT champion? I refuse to believe that. But here I am also believing that Vince McMahon believes that he hates NXT. I don't know what to believe. But here's one thing I do believe. If you're a fan of NXT, you have every right to be upset and angry and pissed at WWE. Because this is a WWE brand that is being treated not like the third brand, but they're being treated like the bottom of the barrel here. Honestly and truly, why do we even watch NXT if this is how they see them? If this is how the big guys, the big leagues, sees NXT, why even fucking watch and give them your time? This 2 minutes summarized how I feel about NXT right now. It's bottom of the barrel and it's irrelevant. Just like Karrion Kross feels after this performance. I just can't help but even laugh at this whole situation I'm talking about right now. But rant over. I can't even muster up the energy to get angry at this because my throat hurts still. Also coming out of that, WWE just announced NXT TakeOver 36 happening the day after SummerSlam. As if you should give a fuck, though, because the NXT champion is a piece... I'm done talking about it. Main event of this show was Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. A rematch that was not as good as the Money in the Bank match, and it ended in a DQ after Charlotte Flair hit Rhea Ripley in the head with the championship. What a great way to end out the first show with fans back from Monday Night Raw. Is what I thought, at least. Rhea Ripley came back, she laid out Charlotte Flair, and then out comes Nikki Ash. Briefcase in hand, she runs into the ring, she cashes in, hits a crossbody on a Charlotte, gets the pin, and is your new Raw Women's Champion. I'm happy for Nikki Ash. I am happy and belated for Nikki Cross that she is the Raw Women's Champion, because I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't think I would ever see the day that Nikki Cross, Nikki Ash, whatever you want to call her, would become the Raw Women's Champion. But here she is on top of the world going into SummerSlam. But then I also can't help but feel like this might be just a way to get Charlotte Flair another reign. I don't know what to feel. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I'm happy that she won. I'm happy for Nikki Cross. New Japan Pro Wrestling has their upcoming Grand Slam in the Tokyo Dome show coming up this Sunday. We have the match card for you right here. Toriano will be defending his KOPW Provisional in a New Japan Rambo. Much like Karrion Kross as the NXT champion, who gives a shit? The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships are on the line as Taiji Ishimori and El Fantasmo, LPP, defends his championship against Ryusuke Taguchi and Rock Romero, the Mega Coaches. This is going to be very fun. I'm looking forward to that match a lot. I'm going to go with the Mega Coaches to win the championships. They may lose, possibly. I got my money on them. It would be a nice breath of fresh air for the Junior Heavyweight division to have Mega Coaches as the champions. We have the Junior Heavyweight Championship, El Desperado defending the championship against Robbie Eagles. Also a newer match that's happening in here. I'm looking forward to that as well. Robbie Eagles is very capable of having great matches, so this should be a really good banger. I think Despy retains, though. At this point, I really don't know who Despy loses the title to. He's been holding on to it for quite some time. I'm not saying that I'm ready for him to lose or anything, but I don't know who's in line. I don't know who that is, unless it's going to be Hiromu again at Wrestle Kingdom. That might actually be what's going to happen, to be honest. Kazuchika Okada goes one-on-one with Jeff Cobb. It's a regular singles match. Okada's going to get the win because he's due for a win after losing to Shingo. The IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships are on the line as Tetsuya Naito and Sanada defend their championships against the Dangerous Tekkers, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. and Lord Taichi have felt like the Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa of the tag team division. They have been in the division since Dominion last year, and they have been stuck there ever since. I feel like every tag team championship match I hear about involves these two. Every single one. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little sick of hearing about these guys in the tag division. I am ready for them to move down the card a bit or do some singles action, which we're heading into G1 territory, but I'm hoping they don't retain. I'm hoping they don't get it back. I'm hoping that Tetsuya Naito and Sanada retain the tag team championships. I'm going to go with them. The main event of the evening is a 5-match show happening in the Tokyo Dome, by the way. The IWGP World Heavyweight Championship is on the line as Shingo Takagi defends the championship against Kota Ibushi. Bear in mind this information I'm about to tell you. Kota Ibushi, for the last few Summer Struggle shows, has been sidelined due to pneumonia. I believe what's the term? It's in the trachea, area. Like, he has fluids filling up in his lungs. He has pneumonia. And because of this, he's been out of the last few shows. And they even taken him out of the next few shows leading into this show. We are 4 days away from the Tokyo Dome show. And Kota Ibushi has pneumonia. Will he be 100% before the show? I don't think so. And he's already been taken off for the rest of the shows leading into this. So the question is, they already said they're evaluating the situation. The question is, will he be ready for the show? If you ask me, I don't think he will be. And if he is not 100%, if his lungs are not 100%, he should not be wrestling 40-minute matches in the Tokyo Dome. He should not. So if it's me, I think they're pulling him. And if they do, that belt is plagued and they need to get rid of it. Because since day one of that championship being a thing, they've had injury after injury after different mats being changed. This is like the third time a match has been changed up with that championship being active since Will Ospreay won it. The second or third time. One of the two. All I know is that ever since those championships have been unified, it's been bad luck. I think it's time to get rid of those championships, honestly. I mean, that's me being I'm being half serious when I say that. But if Kota Ibushi can't make it, who would be a last-minute replacement? Okada's filled up. Naito's filled up. Who would else be slotted in there? Jay White's in America, so he can't make it in time. I think there's two people. Now, the first one you're going to laugh at, but honestly and truly, who else you're going to slot in this spot? I think the second person would be Master Wato. When you look at the Summer Struggle Tour, the entire tour has really been him, Kota Ibushi, and Tomoka Yomna versus Master Wato. And, I'm sorry, my correction. The entire tour, because Kota Ibushi's been injured, has been Shingo Takagi and Bushi versus Master Wato and Tomoka Yomna. That's been the entire Summer Struggle Tour. And they've had a singles match already, I'm aware of that. But if that is the tour that has been building up because Kota Ibushi's been out of the equation, don't you think it makes sense to give Master Wato the championship match? And yes, you're saying, it's the Tokyo Dome, it's too soon for Master Wato, he's done nothing. If the feud has been built up around these two men, does it not make sense for that to be the match? I know it does not make sense for Master Wato, who is a junior, to be in the main event of the Tokyo Dome, but who the fuck else is going to be in that spot? If it can't be Jay, and it can't be Okada, and it can't be Naito, who else? Which leads me to my last person, which is Hiroshi Tanahashi. Tanahashi, not sure what he's been doing in the last few tours, because y'all don't know, I don't watch New Japan. But last time we seen Tanahashi and Shingo in the ring, Tanahashi defeated him for the Never Openweight Championship. So Master Wato is a second, but I think the clear person who they will likely slot in this spot is Hiroshi Tanahashi. He hasn't been in a championship picture for a long time, and one would say that Shingo is due back for his win. I think if Ibushi's out, I think Tanahashi is in. And if it's not Tanahashi, then it should be Master Wato. Because anybody else in here, you're going to have to alter the card. And it can't be Okada, because Okada has lost to Shingo 2 times. So Okada should not be getting another championship match. And that is my predictions for the New Japan show coming up. I have 2 questions in here that I'm going to answer. I have a few others, but I'm not going to answer them because I'm ready to go. Wei Lian Long, he asks, I don't know if you've seen the recent Stardom show, but can you talk about Mayu versus Oedo Tai? I've not seen it yet. I plan on watching it tonight, so I might talk about it later in the week if I am feeling up for it. But he also asked, what's your favorite childhood show? For me, it's Kamen Rider and the Power Rangers. I have a lot of favorite childhood shows, but you asked for my favorite show. So I have to boil it down, which is a little tough, but I managed to by networks. So if I'm going by PBS, I would say my favorite show was The Big Comfy Couch. If I'm going with Cartoon Network, my favorite show was Ed, Edd n Eddy. Close second being Total Drama Island. If we're going by Disney Channel, my favorite show was The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Definitely a Sweet Life on Deck as well. They coincide with each other. And then for Nickelodeon, my favorite show I would say was Zoe 101. and a close second being Drake and Josh. And then finally, Mason Robinson asked me, what is a match from years ago that you think should be ran back again? For me, it's Darby Allin and Jeff Cobb, which was originally from PWG. There's a lot of matches I would like to fantasy book, personally, Mason Robinson, as you just did, but I'm going to keep it slightly realistic and only keep it to companies that can realistically run these matches because these guys are under contract. I'll do one fantasy match in there just to throw it in there. But for New Japan Pro Wrestling, I said this on the last podcast, and I'll keep saying it. I would love nothing more than New Japan to run back Shingo Takagi versus Tetsuya Naito at G1 Climax 29. They had an outstanding match, one of the best matches of 2019. They need to run that match back at G1 Climax 31. They just have to. They just have to. For WWE, I would love for them to run back John Cena versus Seth Rollins. They had a great match at SummerSlam 2015. They had a really good slew of matches in 2015 and 2016. The last time they faced off was in a 2018 Raw Gauntlet match, in which that was good. They just have really good matches. I don't think this one will be as good as their 2015 SummerSlam match, but I would like to see them personally face off again. And NXT, since they're not part of WWE anymore, WWE doesn't like them enough. NXT, I would like to see Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bates. Last match they had was in 2017, and they had a tremendous match to take over Chicago. I know they had a match on NXT as well, which was not as good, but really good. I would like to see them have a match again. I know the only way that could happen is if Pete Dunne goes to the UK or Tyler Bate goes to America. I would love to see Tyler Bate go to America because Tyler Bate is awesome. So, fingers crossed. In AEW, I would like to see Malachi Black go up against Andrade El Idolo. The last match they had against each other was in 2018 at NXT TakeOver in New Orleans, which was a great match. They're gonna have a great one in AEW, and that's kind of my my dream run back match. In Stardom, I know you said from a few years ago, but there's not too many Stardom matches that have not happened already. So personally, I would like to see Takumi Iroha versus Mayu Iwatani ran back from 2020. They had two matches last year that were both outstanding and amazing. I would like to see them run it back again this year, next year. And finally, a fantasy match I would like to see ran back is Shingo Takagi versus a guy he faced off against in Ring of Honor 11 years ago, Bryan Danielson. And guys, that is Chillspo Podcast, episode 57. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let your boy know. I'm outie. I'm out of here. My head is ringing and I'm done talking. So you guys have a good week. I will talk to you all next week. Peace out, guys.